clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back to Subway Sports Talk. Pete Kennedy joined by our designated hitter. Andrew Calagna is here to talk about some of the happenings across baseball and obviously what happened with the New York Yankees. Drew, it's been a minute since we talked baseball on the podcast. Obviously no October baseball here in New York. And now you're here to talk about some exciting stuff with the Yankees and around MLB. Exciting stuff. What's up, Drew?
No, doing great, man. Yo, there's Panera Bread opened up on my house. The Rangers are first place in the Eastern Conference overall, and the Yankees got Juan Soto. Everything it's going pretty good right now. My life's pretty great, so I have very few complaints.
2 kids, didn't have to go to Alex's wedding. It's really just a win all around.
Oh man, I'm so happy I didn't go to Alex's wedding.
Really, you didn't miss much. It was horrible.
It looked like shit.
Well, congratulations to our boy Alec. I don't know if I actually mentioned on the podcast that he's been married, and that's great stuff for our boy Alec. You know, a woman likes him. That's cool. We're happy for him. So now he's got a dog, he's got a wife, and he's on a great honeymoon. Shout out to him. And now he's got a left fielder. Wow. What a time to be alive for Alec as well.
Wow. No, man. It was the Juan Soto, like when he first came up, it was just like one of those players where you could kind of just sit back and you think like, this is a fantastic player. He's never going to play for my team, but I'll always be able to just watch him from afar and just appreciate his greatness, much like Mike Trout, much like Bryce Harper. Those type of generational talents, you think, okay, just, because they didn't draft him, they didn't sign him as an amateur, international free agent or anything like that. So, just something you missed out on. But then, it was kind of this really perfect storm of the Padres needing to shed payroll and the Yankees having those depth pitchers available to trade. And I can't believe it. Juan Soto, at least for 2024, is a New York Yankee. And, man, every time I say it, it brings a smile on my face. It really does.
Truly exciting stuff for New York baseball. After a year, I don't want to say a year from hell, but yeah, I think that's honestly fair to say it's a year from hell for not just the Yankees, but the Mets obviously were worse in the regular season, had a lot of issues, don't expect to be a big-time player as soon as next year, though you never know in the world of baseball, of course. But Juan Soto coming to New York, I mean, if this was 2005, this would be the story of New York, and it still had its wave. It still had huge splashes across the sports, and now all baseball fans have that thing to look forward to. And Drew, I want to get to some specifics of that, but I will mention that we obviously are going to talk about Shohei Ohtani as well as we move on in this podcast. But my first thing that I want to ask you, because you and I spent so much time on this podcast over the past year, maybe we'll say 2 years, just talking about the Yankees front office and their ownership, and saying that they're not the same old Yankees. They're not going to do what fans consistently want them to do. Get your hopes down now, because they're not going to make multiple splashes. They're not going to do these things. And yet here we are trading for Juan Soto when it's not even a guarantee that you lock him up long-term, looking to make that move, looking to bolster a lineup that was absolutely just a disappointment last year. And it happened. So for all the talk that we've had for the past 2 years of disappointment, expecting the worst from this front office from time to time, this was the thing that you longed for, that you called for years ago, that you called for every year since. And after the Aaron Boone re-signing or re-bringing back, whatever it was, you maybe didn't expect this, and here we are, Drew. So how are you, obviously we know how you're feeling, but how are you taking in this Juan Soto news from a big picture Yankees perspective?
He fits every category that the Yankees were looking for. They needed a left-handed bat. It checks that bat. He needed someone who gets on base, needed someone who and especially brings the star power, because we were trotting out a lineup last year with Willie Calhoun and Jake Bowers and just a whole bunch of guys that just had they didn't deserve. Those are not Yankee type players, and the Yankees desperately needed a 1A to Aaron Judge, and now they finally have it. And you have a modern day 1-2 punch or 2-3 wherever they bat him in the order. Very similar to how the Red Sox had Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz. So it would be very fun, at least for a season, to to experience that. And it's a move that they absolutely had to make. And okay, and in years past, Brian Cashman would say that's a lot of depth, a lot of pitching depth to give up for a rental. But the thing is, now you have a whole year now to convince Juan Soto that you want to retire a Yankee. You can be an upper echelon New York Yankee. You can get your number retired next to Aaron Judge. You can be, basically what they offer, what Robinson Cano could have been if he would have stayed with the Yankees, and when he left to go to Seattle. So you can offer him all these things that are just extra on top of the $500-600 million now that I'm sure they'll be able to defer thanks to Shohei Ohtani. Yeah, that contract for Ohtani is nuts. So I anticipate Soto probably getting around like $575-600 million pretty easily, considering he's only 25 years old. And the crazy part of that trade too is the guys they sent over, like 4 out of the 5 guys they sent over, are older than Juan Soto.
Yeah, crazy. He's so young. He turned 25.
He'll play his entire year 25 season in the Bronx next year. So it's nuts. So he's that youth that they needed, and it's crazy because he's been in the league since he was 19, and it's so a guy of that caliber. It's the perfect kind of storm of circumstances had to happen for him to get traded twice, and someone again who's on track to be an inner circle first ballot Hall of Famer. It's a pretty special thing, and I'm pretty confident in the fact that the way the fans have responded to Juan Soto, and as long as he goes out there and he performs like his typical self, I can't imagine the Yankees would let him go at this point, especially given the fact that he's so young. And, you only have 3-4 more years of prime Garrett Cole, prime Aaron Judge, and Gleyber Torres is a free agent after this year. And, there's a lot of pieces that are going to be moving and kind of up in the air to know that you have, 2 of the top 4 best hitters in baseball on your team. I think that's a pretty good building block to start and to continue moving forward to try to actually make it to the World Series and win a World Series for the first time since 2009.
It's an absolute no-brainer to re-sign this man. I mean, you think about Aaron Judge and some of the controversy, and I say controversy very lightly because it was a no-brainer to re-sign Aaron Judge, even though he was 30 years old when you give him the contract. Juan Soto is 25. That's insane. You give him a 12-year contract, and I wouldn't really blink an eye, to be quite honest, because we're getting at 37 years old. Aaron Judge was 30 when he wanted a 10-year deal. That's so different. Like, this is really similar more to his former teammate, Manny Machado, who has a similar kind of pace of career in the sense that he was on an upstart Baltimore team at the age of 19, played out a good handful of years there where he was very good, got traded to the LA Dodgers, and then signed with the San Diego Padres. So he didn't get traded a second time before re-signing, but very similar. Manny Machado was 26 years old when he got to San Diego with that contract. Juan Soto's a year younger than that, already with the chops of a World Series champion, leading the league in on-base percentage multiple times in his career, just consistently being one of the top players in the league. It is a no-brainer to throw the full entire bag at Juan Soto. Even last year, when he quote-unquote had a disappointing season, all he did was lead the league in walks, have over a 400 on base percentage, and OPS plus of 158. So yeah, a semi down season for Juan Soto was still an all-star appearance. He played 162, which is unheard of, and he was just a mainstay as a very, very well above average player. That's even selling him too short.
Yeah, and to think that he's going to be motivated now in a contract year, and the thing is, the short porch isn't going to help him too much because he's not really a pull hitter, and he even said in his press conference today that he doesn't want to change his approach to try to take advantage of the short porch, and that's the perfect answer because the Yankees hitting coaches have not helped a ton of players out at all. So for Juan Soto to come in and say, "Hey, I'm just going to keep doing what made me so successful," that gives me a lot of hope that that short porch isn't going to try to change his swing of any kind. And he's going to be the player that he's always been. So it's super exciting. And Man, he's just so good. He's just so good, Pete.
He's so good. And the one thing, this is going to sound silly, but the thing that kind of excites me the most about the situation now with Aaron Judge and him batting next to each other, this is two of the best eyes in baseball, right? So yes, of course, they both hit with pop. They can both hit home runs. We know Judge is more of a home run hitter than Soto, but these are two guys who will lead the league or be towards the top of the league leaders in walks every year, in on base percentage every year, which obviously is what you want in today's day of baseball. They're batting 1 or 2 and 3 or 1 and 2, whatever the hell it's going to be, doesn't even matter at this point. If you're a pitcher, what are you going to do? Or you have to throw strikes at some point to somebody. And last year, where Judge had no protection at all, now whoever's protecting one another in this lineup, my God, it's going to be a nightmare for opposing pitchers off the start of every single game. Like, oh my God, I'm going to end up walking Soto because he gets walked all the time. And now Judge has a guy on base, or vice versa. My goodness. Like, is that weird to say that the fact they draw so many walks excites me the most about having these two guys on the team?
And that makes, it takes a lot of pressure off of, Juan Soto's presence takes a lot of pressure off of Anthony Rizzo and Giancarlo Stanton and some of the other guys in that lineup. But at the same time, there's going to, they're probably going to have to produce now, because you're going to have a lot of situations where Soto's going to be on second base, Judge is going to be on first base, and either Rizzo or Stanton are going to be up with 1 or 2 outs a lot of times. So those guys are going to have to, do a lot better. And, I will say that as exciting as the Soto addition is, I'm not entirely convinced that the Yankees still have a good offense. They have a better offense, a much improved offense, but I can't necessarily say that it's good. You have 4 players in the lineup right now who you can count on giving you league average productions. You have obviously Soto and Judge. You have Glaber, and then you have Verdugo. Verdugo is not even anything special, but he's been the most average of average players, for the last 4 years, putting up 100 WRC plus, which is exactly league average. So anybody else, DJ, he hit better in the second half last year. Rizzo, you're not sure how he's going to come off the concussion, and Giancarlo Stanton's been on a downward trend for the last 2.5 years. So you have question marks, and then you have those other 2 lineup spots in Trevino, or who's a 0 at the plate, or Wells, who didn't exactly light the world on fire when he came up at the end of last season. And Anthony Volpe, while winning a Gold Glove, he left a lot to desire as a bat. So you have some kids, you have some guys that you're hoping to bounce back from, and you have about four certainties in the lineup. So again, much improved, but you can still see how it won't be a top of the league offense going into next year. But it doesn't matter the fact, it doesn't change the fact that that Juan Soto is a Yankee, that everyone should be ecstatic that Juan Soto is a Yankee, and the Yankees are still continuing to go out there and look for Yamamoto. And now that the Dodgers have Ohtani and all his deferred money, they're actually going to, looks like they're going to still be in on Yamamoto and adding players. So the Yankees have some competition there. But that Ohtani contract, man, is that's something, man. It really is.
And before you get into the Ohtani contract, I want to ask one more Yankees question. So you kind of perfectly led me to my final question here with the Yankees. Now that Soto is a Yankee, twofold. One, how important is it for the Yankees to be a true World Series level contender for the fact of re-signing Juan Soto? And 2, with all the talks of us saying the Yankees aren't willing to do the big moves or multiple big moves, do you actually expect at this point for them to add something to this lineup to make it more than just better and make it actually great again?
That's a tough part. I mean, it's very important that they at least get to the CS or to the World Series. They have to be able to take that next step forward. I think if Soto is comfortable here, if he sees that the Yankees are trying to build a winner, if they sign Yamamoto and they sees that there's going to be a consistent pipeline of good players coming in, plus hundreds of millions of dollars is a good combination for him to stay. And the other question is it's going to be tough to bring in somebody else, because I personally would have let Stanton go. I would have just released him to free up the DH spot. But it looks like they're going to at least give another year go of him. And, they were looking into bringing in Candelario before he signed with the Reds to play third base. So there's still options left in the offseason. But the problem with this free agent class is that it's mostly pitching. That's available. At least good pitching's available. The best hitter still available is Cody Bellinger, who's so, and someone who's you don't want to probably end up giving $200 million to. So, which also makes a ton of sense why the Yankees went out and actually traded for Juan Soto. They used their prospect capital to go out and get that elite hitter that outside of Shohei Ohtani wasn't available. So. It's still possible, but I think the lineup that you see now is the lineup they're going to go into 2024 with. We'll see what happens at the deadline and, see, injuries and such, but they're pretty stacked in the outfield while getting Trent Grisham in there as a good fourth outfielder. So they're pretty set in the outfield. So we'll see what happens at third base, see what happens, if Rizzo can stay healthy. We'll see what happens there.
And now it's just marginal moves is your guesstimation. Yeah.
Outside of going after Yamamoto again, another 25-year-old.
I'm talking about offense, right?
Offense, yeah. Marginally on offense, yeah.
Marginally on offense, and Yamamoto obviously still up in the air. With many teams in the running, like you mentioned, the Dodgers included, the Mets still sprinkled into that conversation. We'll see if they have what it takes to pull that off there. And we'll do more conversations about the Yankees and the Mets and their whole outlook. The Yankees obviously hoping for positive regression on some of those guys you mentioned, like LeMahieu and Torres was pretty good last year, Stanton and Rizzo, et cetera.
Yep.
But on the Shohei Ohtani contract, my goodness, huh? Bobby Bonilla thought he did something special. Look at Shohei go. He got the thing deferred all the way through, 20 years from now? He'll be a rich man for a long time. Obviously, he's probably not short on cash at the moment after his New Balance deal and some of the other stuff I'm sure he has going. So what did you take in from the Shohei Ohtani situation?
Good on Shohei to think that we're still going to have a society in 2044. Like that they're not all going to be on on fire, or like they'll be on the That's really ballsy of him to make that assumption 20 years down the line. But good on him for
we're not going to be living in VR at that point.
Yeah, good for him for not being for being really optimistic about that. But it's great for the sport. It's it's nice that in all reality, it's really more of like a $480 million deal if you take an account of
small potatoes.
Yeah, it's only the largest free agent contract, but not the largest contract in sports. Would you beat out Messi? I think he had like a $640 million contract or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So
or Mbappe or something like that. Yeah,
which is crazy. When his elbow gave out over the season, he said he had to have some kind of Tommy John or the minor Tommy John where they had to put like a brace in it, not a full detachment of the ligament. You think, okay, that's going to knock they were talking like $600 million, as a healthy Ohtani. So you think, okay, he's only going to be a DH for 2024 and hopefully he'll get back to being a pitcher. But man, I guess it didn't matter because the Dodgers are going to make so much money. They're going to make so much money on Japanese sponsorships, and he's the most popular player in an entire country. So you'll have that
in the world right now, dude. He's probably the most popular player in the world right now for baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you have all that sponsorship opportunity. You have all those eyes on you. It's good for the sport. It's good for Ohtani. I'm glad. I never bought that he was going to go to the Blue Jays. Did you follow that whole gate where they were tracking the plane? And it turned out to be the guy from Shark Tank on the plane.
You know what it really reminds me of? And I know it's not your sport here, but the way the whole entire situation was talked about, reported about, and et cetera, I could only compare it to Kawhi Leonard. When Kawhi Leonard was a free agent after he won the championship with the Raptors, there was mayhem, all this reporting. And all we knew about Kawhi Leonard is that he was extremely private. He didn't leak anything. And the only thing you could count on is that you didn't know what Kawhi Leonard wanted to do. The way Shohei Ohtani approached this entire free agency, when his agent, said to the public and to all the reporters, what he really wants is no leaks. He doesn't want to feel like every reporter and organization is running with every little inkling and breadcrumb of a story. That was the most important thing to him. It was clear from the get-go, right? So when you start hearing about planes and trains and automobiles, you really, for me at least, I was like, oh, so that's clearly not going to happen, right? And you start hearing, oh, the Dodgers blew it because they didn't have his picture on the scoreboard. It's like, no. This is exactly what he didn't care about, right? Like he didn't want all that crazy extra fanfare with leaks and every single story run about him. So as soon as all that stuff went out, I was like, nah, all this stuff is baloney. The only ones still in the race are the big dogs that were in it from the beginning.
Exactly. And he doesn't even have to move from his house. Like he could get $700 million and you don't have to move. You could just stay where he is. And like, I never bought the Blue Jays just simply for the fact that like, the Blue Jays have only won one AL East title in the last 30 years. You have to compete in the gauntlet of the AL East, and you have to live in Canada where they have bagged milk. Like, why would you go do that when you're living in California? Like, it made no sense to me at all that he would go to the Blue Jays. So,
Yeah, I was with you on that one. Let me ask you this question, though, because our buddy Alex, speaking of him, he made the comment, and he's not alone in making this comment, but he was like, oh, my God, what an albatross that contract is going to be in, X amount of years.
Yeah.
When you hear that type of talk about the Ohtani contract, you say what?
Well, on the actual dollars he's making per year, he's like the 17th highest paid Dodger. Like there's middle relievers that are getting paid more than Ohtani. His luxury tax hit is like $46 million, but he's only getting paid $2 million each year. So, when the check comes, the ownership can be like, oh, we'll just sell the team, and the $680 million can be someone else's problem. Like,
if it's that bad, they'll
which
probably be doing great because they're a great organization.
Exactly. So it's a win-win. So the Dodgers can go out. They're way underneath the luxury tax right now. So it's like they can still add multiple pieces. They can go out and get Yamamoto. They can go out and get resign basically anybody or take on contracts of any player and still be under the luxury tax and still build a team that's going to be in there in the playoffs. So, it's good on them. Good on them. And I don't see it as an albatross. I mean, it's a decent luxury tax hit, but he's making $2 million. So, the money's coming after he's retired. So
they're clearly not worried about the money.
It's a win all around. It's a win all around.
They're clearly not worried about the money right now. So I think that's also important to say with the Dodgers specifically. They've been spending like it's their job because it is their job. And they've been a team that basically every franchise in the MLB, whether they admit it or not, wants them to be. Right? Every fan wants their team to be the Dodgers. Let's not pretend like they don't. If a Yankee fan tells you, I wouldn't want to win that way, shut up. Yes, you do. Yes, you would.
Because they did. They did
forever.
For all the years, and be able to develop young players and be able to develop the Yankees have been able to develop pitching in a similar way the Dodgers have, but the Dodgers backed it up by now they have the best three hitters in all of baseball, and Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani batting back to back to back. You want to talk about Aaron Judge and Juan Soto? I'll one up you with Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and Shohei Ohtani for a year. Which is bonkers.
It is. It's absolutely insane. Anything else to add on the Yankees front, Shohei Ohtani front? What about the Mets? You got anything on the Mets?
The Mets are, I think they're still in on Yamamoto. If not, I think they'll pivot to Snell or maybe even Montgomery. They need pitching. They signed Severino, which is fine. Again, if he's healthy, he'll be okay. But he hasn't been healthy since like 2018. So, but as long as you're not counting on Severino to be anything more than like your number 4 or 5 starter, I think the Mets will be fine. But they definitely need to go out and get at least two more middle to upper echelon starting pitching. So even if they don't get Yamamoto, which I think is going to come down to either the Yankees or the Dodgers for his services, but there's still plenty of pitching out there for the Mets to go get. And unfortunately, Ronnie Mauricio, tore his ACL. So, that's an extra bat that's not going to be in the lineup on opening day or to compete for the third base spot. But, the Mets have made a couple of good signings in their bullpen and shored up that kind of weakness too. So again, it's still only December. What's today? Like the 12th, December 12th, 11th, 13th. I don't know what day it is.
Right.
But
Yeah,
it's still pretty early in the offseason for the Mets to still make some moves to shore up that pitching staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of stuff where, the Mets need to get better at, right? So I think any Mets fan out here has the premonition, like in the past 2 years where they're a World Series contender, I think that's okay that they're not in every single graphic on MLB's Instagram that they're the number 2 or number 3 World Series odds. Because we know baseball is one of those sports where you can have teams that overperform every year and underperform every year. The Mets underperformed last year. That doesn't mean that they're going to be the worst team in the league this season, right? There's a very fine line between expecting a team to be trash and expecting them to be competitive, moving in the right direction. So it almost makes more sense for them to kind of continue on the course rather than to overspend on this class that really doesn't have a lot to offer, which is unfortunate. It's not exciting, but it's unfortunately probably the truth. And
there's still some trades that can make to maybe shore up an outfield back. Cause I don't think DJ Stewart's going to be their starting, left fielder. So, Marte's back from injury, so hopefully he can bounce back a little bit. But so I fully expect them to go out and get another outfielder of some kind. I don't think they're going to go sign Cody Bellinger or anything like that, but or maybe they will. Who knows? But
right.
But I think they have the pieces to be able to go out and trade for somebody at least.
Yeah, and they really do need some of those young guys to become players, right? If Vientos all of a sudden is a middle lineup guy who you trust, then of course, they're going to be ahead of schedule, but it's not something you should expect. I get blown away by Mets fans who are all of a sudden out on David Stearns already. It's like, oh, he made a couple comments he didn't like at the winter meetings where all these GMs are speaking in code and trying not to say anything by saying everything. Like, let's relax. Before he got hired, he was the savior. He was literally the messiah to come save the Mets franchise. And now he says a few things at the winter meetings and you're out on David Stearns. Like, come on, relax. Everybody relax.
No, seriously.
So,
let him, as the kids like to say, let him cook. Let him cook for a little and see what happens on the other side and see what happens, next year. And if they extend Alonso and see how that shakes out before you can, before you make your judgments in the middle of December.
That's the big question, really, for the Mets, right? Some Mets fans very much okay with the idea of losing Alonso or trading Alonso. I am not one of those Mets fans. I more fully see myself rooting for Pete Alonso for the rest of his career. And I don't know if maybe that's just me being a fan or me being a rational person who looks at Pete Alonso as one of the best hitters in baseball. Who's to say? I don't know what side I'm on, but maybe the guy who's hit the most home runs since he's entered the league is pretty good. Yeah. I don't know, Drew. Am I crazy?
In a lineup that is desperate for power.
Yeah. But no, he's he's got too much energy and he's a little corny, which I agree with. He's a little corny. But come on. We're going to trade him? He's been the best Met in a decade.
No, you don't. Those are not the kind of guys you trade. So
unbelievable.
They'll get it done. I think they'll definitely get it done. I think Uncle Steve and I think David Stearns knows that they're kind of at this fragile tipping point here, and losing a fan favorite is not in that recipe book for forward and success for the Mets.
Yeah. All right, Andrew Calagna, any last words? Any other updates? Rangers updates? Life updates? What do you got? Anything else?
Dude, the Panera over me, it's excellent. I mean, I got a You Pick 2 today. I got the broccoli cheddar soup and the Frontega chicken. Wow, the best.
They got some sneaky good stuff at Panera, and their coffee is actually very good as well.
Oh, it is. I joined the Sip Club. You get free coffee as long as you it's like $12 a month or something. You get free coffee, free drinks. It was a free first 2 months. I don't know. It's great. It's so good.
I don't know why every coffee shop doesn't do this, by the way. Why would you not have a subscription-based service for coffee? Like, I think about it, even my local shop where coffees are a little more expensive. Like, if you're saying, regular coffee, like a drip hot coffee is, I don't know, whatever, $2.50. You're paying $20 a month unlimited drip coffees. I'm considering it. Yeah, I'm considering it for sure. And like, why is every Dunkin', Starbucks type brand, Tim Hortons, Why are they not doing this? Because then you go to the store and then you're there and you're like, all right, well, I already paid for this golf. You might as well get a sausage, egg, and cheese.
Absolutely.
And then Tommy DeVito shows up and slings a cutlet at you. And then what are you doing?
Oh,
you
man.
know? It's a no-brainer. Wish there was a Panera here. I'd join the club.
Oh, man. Panera's so good. So good. I'm so happy.
Wow. Look at all these plugs Panera's getting. This is great. Who would have thunk it?
Sponsor the pod.
All right, Andrew. Thank you for, as always. I know we went relatively short tonight with our segment here, but we had a great time with Don Wagenblast talking football and fantasy football specifically. So great time to be a sports fan, as always, as the Giants at least add some intrigue to our New York football rooting lives for now. And the Rangers, go Rangers, right? First place in the Metro.
Yep. The first place in the Eastern Conference.
First place in the Eastern Conference. Let's go Rangers. Go hockey.
Fuck yeah.
Let's do that hockey. All right, Drew, we'll talk to you soon.
Do that hockey.
Cheers.
See ya.